Well, we've tagged a lot of folks in our community with this label of felon because a felony crime was committed. The folks were caught doing a felony crime, and as a result of them having that felony crime, which was sometimes a long, long time ago, we currently have a governor that chose to not at all pardon anyone with a felony on their record. He chose in his administration, as he talks about being a Christian, that he's not going to forgive and provide grace to anyone that may have committed a felony crime, got convicted, served their time. They're now free to serve, free to vote. But his choice is, hey, we won't relieve any of them. The benefit that you get as a result of employing folks from the city of Milwaukee, because you got to remember, the felony crime was committed in the city of Milwaukee. Since the city of Milwaukee created this large, long groups of felons that have gone to prison, they've gotten educated in some stages, some have got nothing, they come back into the community. It's up to the community Milwaukee, the leaderships from the top down, not to only say, we're not gonna be so insensitive that we bring corporations in. First of all, the corporations have gotta be welcomed in. They need tax breaks, they need incentives, they need something that would bring those factories here. But those factories are normally international factories. And those international factories have all sorts of people with all sorts of different labels working for them. It's a top-down type of deal where not everybody that needs to work is going to actually be perfect. But they still need to work, deserve to having a middle wage, good sustainable income. They deserve to have money to raise their families. They deserve to be in the middle class. Those people were convicted right here in our city in Milwaukee County. We just had a big farm system of folks going up north for many, many years. As a result, and as a benefit, to answer your question, and as an incentive to our city and to those families of folks that have been convicted many years ago, serve their time, the benefit is a benefit that says this: we are Milwaukee, we are strong, we have an adequate workforce, and just because you're not perfect, that doesn't mean that the end and your end result has to be a systemic value of you entering into a penal system again that's primarily taking thousands and thousands of black men out of the city of Milwaukee. We need to have a testimony in the city of Milwaukee. If you're ready to work, we'll put you back to work to sustain your family, to grow your family, strengthen our community, because felon is a tag. Sometimes folks that have been convicted and they vote and they're free and they can work and do as they need to, they tag themselves. But more often, we marginalize folks, stick them in that label, stick them in that brand, and we hold those folks back. It's up to us to fix Milwaukee, and the fix is in. We should spend money to educate folks, spend money to get them back into the workforce, and spend money to make sure that we have a guaranteed middle class, and that's gonna strengthen our communities and get young black men and women out of the streets.
Okay. Well, let's talk about another issue. You talked earlier about shopping, entertainment, and bringing that back into the community. And oftentimes in the districts, in your districts and the other districts where crime is high, jobs are low, people are beginning to lose their jobs and things like that. What's to say when these businesses come back into the community that crime won't rise? I mean, we just looked at Walmart recently closing. A lot of people lost their jobs, things like that. And so now part of the conversation that's taking place in the community is that crime is going to rise. So if these businesses and these shopping centers and these corporations come back into your district, into the city, what's going to ensure, what's going to be done to ensure that, it's, that it says safest place to go is Mayfair or Shorewood, because oftentimes that's what happens. We travel to those places
Correct.
Because we think they're a lot safer than where we live at and where we work at and where we spend our money. So what's going to ensure that we can bring that type of security and safety to our district, our community?
I'm glad you asked. I currently wrote a program over the last 4 days called Save Midtown, Shop Midtown. Save Midtown, Shop Midtown. 2 big box stores left. Lowe's has been gone for a long time. Walmart pulls out. It's up to the community to actually attempt to make every effort we can to shop at the smaller stores that were carried by a big box store. So these smaller stores are gonna feel the crunch. They're gonna feel the pressure, and they're gonna feel the temptation of people that only now have these smaller stores to kind of pick on because Big Brother is gone. Save Walmart, sustain Walmart, save Midtown, keep Midtown, shop Midtown. This program and this type of thought is gonna help folks to know that if we don't shop there, we'll lose those stores also. To piggyback on top of that, Walmart had a certain amount of loss prevention that they expected. Sometimes in our community, what I'm hearing is what happened at that Midtown Walmart, it was superseded greatly. There was a lot of theft, a lot of small stuff going. If we actually put into the mind of the community that Midtown could be a complete and total ghost town, if we put into the mind of the people that if you don't shop there, we're gonna lose the shopping areas and the shopping district and entertainment district that we could have, if we put that into the mind of the people, now on this side, versus us waiting for the folks to be robbed, stolen from, and taken from, maybe we could prevent some of what could happen. There's a lot of systemic problems in our community that are the symptoms of poverty. And poverty may cause you to want to steal and go steal and take some stuff that's not yours. I get that. However, we've got to have an active function now that says save Walmart, keep Midtown, shop Midtown now until I can and the folks downtown can figure out a way to put something back into those vacant stores so we can provide jobs back to the folks who lost their jobs and also provide a sense of, hey, get up and go. We got somebody else that's willing to fill those voids because the stores are out there. But will the people join hands with someone that's willing to go after the big stores and say, and welcome them into a second district, welcome them into Milwaukee, because in that area there's a large amount of disposable income that some big store and some box stores can use.
Okay, because I got to say this because it probably speaks and goes to what a lot of people in our community think about. I mean, we talk about what goes on in our community versus other communities. And one thing that, we hear a lot of and we know of is that oftentimes people that look like you and me don't shop real strong in businesses that we have.
Yeah.
But yet, what we do watch is that we watch other people from other ethnic groups and communities and countries come here, and they're able to be successful, within a year. They're able to build houses. They're able to go and open up multiple businesses. They get all the financial support they need from banks. I mean, and most of these people don't even have a Social Security card. But our fathers and mothers before us, they had that. They can't get loans from the bank. They can't get decent loans from the city to support them in the businesses. They're having problems with licensing, these different type of things. So, I mean, we can talk about having a plan to change the mindset of our community so that we do shop, so that we do keep an air, we can go shopping. But won't it turn out to be the same thing that we're facing now with the Walmart closing? Prior to that, it was a Capitol court closing. You understand? And I mean, there's multiple businesses there. So we've seen the systemic effects of this before that we're seeing with Walmart. So you're running for your district, second district. I guess my question is, and many things that people talk to me about is that what's different? Because we hear conversation all the time about what, politicians, aldermen, mayors, Congress, senators, what they're gonna do, and then they get in office, and then guess what? The game changes. We don't see the money, we don't see the businesses flourish, we don't see the house ownership developing. I mean, our communities look the same. We have complaints about having alleys plowed. You can't get the garbage out. Everybody's kind of left out on their own, and so you're running for this district. But what makes someone believe that it's going to be different?
I'm a coalition builder. Again, I worked for the city of Milwaukee for a while. I'm known as an organizer, a unifier, and a coalition builder. There's nothing that you mentioned that's not true. It's all true. I also know that me in and of myself, I can't do it. However, if we can scale it back and take one issue at a time, there's a definite poverty problem in our city. So poverty is one issue. There's a definite jobs issue in our city. Jobs is an issue. There's an incredible amount of black men and women that have had felony charges, that have not been given a fair chance with education, with degrees, with the knowledge to help and bring change to our city, we've kind of marginalized them and left them out. Let's take people out of their margins, and let's get out of our margins, and let's go downtown and fight this fight together. From the top down, I'm willing to invite and bring organizations, and not just nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations and businesses into this city to show them we have a valid, strong group of folks that are ready to work. They're ready to become employed. They're ready to raise their families. They're not animals and cannibals, but we've allowed the symptoms of poverty to kind of take root and grow in our community. And the symptoms of poverty every day on the news, that's where the shine is. Who stole a car? Who clucked somebody upside their head? Who stole what? A lot of car wrecks on TV these days. However, is there money, and I'm willing to ask, and I'm willing to fight with you, downtown to say, we need money for soft skills jobs programs. We need money to take people out of survival mode and move them into a middle class. We need money to make sure that we have a safe community, and a safe community is a working community. A safe community is a middle class group of citizens that are working hard to make the lives better for them and for their children. So who am I? An organizer, a unifier, and a person that's bold enough to fight for Second District downtown in City Hall and let those folks know, to include the mayor, that we can't go on business as usual. We have got to do something to salvage the people that are left, because our city is almost under siege. As it continues to warm up, the cities are, people paid for their houses, got their houses paid for, they're scared to come outside. So between our alley and our front yard, we're kind of under siege, locked in, because we don't know what the next thing's gonna be. But as it warms up, we've got to provide folks with some ray of hope. And that hope lies in the fact that if we don't spend money to correct and get people back into the middle class, we're gonna continue to suffer. And the poverty issue we have, we've got symptoms. Those symptoms are the shootings we have, folks getting their vehicles stolen, innocent get hurt, life goes on, and we wait to watch the news again. At some point, the innocent being hurt becomes us. The mayor got himself jacked up out at State Fair. The innocent, which we call ourselves innocent, we marginalize ourselves and say innocent, the timing of someone that's poor and desperate could soon knock on our door. And I'd hate to see us go from 200 homicides to 300 to 400 because we kept the thing moving in the same direction.
Okay.
That's the sad part.
Okay. We'll just moving right along. I'm going to speak to a larger group that not many conversation takes place with, and hopefully you can kind of chime in on this as well. Dealing with local contractors. Apparently, presently the city of Milwaukee has a licensing program for contractors, for home improvement. You have to have a license to do work legally in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Anywhere else in the villages and townships, it's just required a state license. But what's taking place during the conversation that I'm having with many of the local contractors is that they're not given the opportunity to, get employment. We touched on this a little earlier. But what happens is you have tradesmen, carpenters, masons, plumbers, and it seems that they're kind of put out of work, especially when you have big companies come in. I can mention some names like Gorman, who comes in and they do specific work with the city.
Excuse me, if I may, is that union or non-union contractors? Is that union groups or non-union?
I think it's non-union groups.
Okay.
I think a large proportion of the contractors that are suffering are non-union groups because they're LLCs, they're individuals doing business as, and they want to get out and have to make a living for their families as well. So a lot of times they're excluded from contract opportunities which may require them to be union. And what's happening oftentimes during the conversation we're having is that the city of Milwaukee doesn't pay an individual contractor enough to employ someone. So that individual ends up taking on just the amount that he can handle in terms of contracts. So it kind of puts us back where we're trying to fight from. So I'm saying, what do you think from your perspective? Your perspective, because we're talking about following the money, okay, to help get non-union contractors as well as union contractors. They want to be involved, but majority of them are non-union contractors. Get involved in having access to contracts and monies and things like that that are in the city. And I'll say this, and I'll let you answer, because oftentimes what we have and what we see is people that don't look like us. And we have this conversation all the time. People that don't look like us, people that don't live in our city, people that don't live next door to me and next door to you, but yet they're able to come and find work. And they're able to find work all year. And then when there isn't any yearly work, when it's seasonal, guess what? They're able to collect unemployment and till work starts back, and they're able to go back to work. While a lot of us are not working because the opportunity isn't there. So,
Well, here's something else to think about, and here's something else that's not in the budget. Number one, there's no anti-poverty or war on poverty movement going on in Milwaukee. Believe it or not, those movements usually come as a result of people being concerned enough about poverty to actually push downtown hard enough to say there needs to be an initiative to get folks some sort of income. Otherwise, again, the innocent suffer. The second thing there's no true recognition of the fact that Milwaukee is the #1 most segregated city in the country. That's nothing to brag about. And roughly, I'm running for alderman because I'm sick and tired of being #1 at some of the most worst conditions and stuff. As we talk about and shift to talk about work and employment and job opportunities, and most of all contracts, we've got to consider that the reason why the contracts are written how they're written, and the contractors are awarded to who they are, because that racism and that separatism, sometimes it rolls all the way down into City Hall, into the procurement office, and it's actually sometimes a setup. The deals are already done. The deals are done before they're written. And as a contractor, as you are, and as a union guy, if you're really that concerned, we've got to even the playing field to make sure these contracts are awarded across the board. We got to put some things in place, not just Section 3 of the federal government has Section 3 that's in place primarily to make sure that there is at least a reach done to some of the contractors that are minorities and some of the folks that are a part of a huge contract that's coming up that's awarded by the federal government. But we've got to make sure that we go fight and kick and make sure that we kick up enough stuff downtown to show that these contracts that are written won't be written according to what's been written about our city. We're racist, we're separatist, we've marginalized folks, therefore we have unemployed people that are sometimes impoverished, that then sometimes do stuff that's heinous. And again, the poverty symptom and the syndromes and the offsets of poverty, that's what's announced on news. But it's not a part of the budget in the front, this whole poverty piece. There's nothing written in the budget about how we can get ourselves out of this or how we're gonna make sure the contracts are written fairly. But there's gotta be a new playing field and a new place to draw from. That information as to what's been written and how contracts are awarded and how PRFs are granted, that stuff's gotta come from somebody that knows a lot more about it. And it's usually the contractors.
okay.
So me, I'll fight for the contractor because I'm a real estate guy, and that's where my heart is. But again, we've got to do this fighting together. I can't tell you that I'm going to go down there and change this stuff day one. However, I can tell you that when the fight for these contracts to be awarded are awarded, consider it to be the train, consider it to be the bucks, I will be at the table fighting with you.
Okay, and lastly, and this is a subject that we hear about and we talk about all the time, and as you talked about earlier, reflects in the news every day, right? And this deals with the current City of Milwaukee Police and their relationship with the community. We hear about often police shootings, unjustified but turn out to be justified according to police policy. And I'll take you back. I'll take you back a while. You probably remember when the police force had a relationship with the community.
Yeah.
There were movements to go out and build a relationship with kids, whether it was with baseball cards, whether it was, walking in the community, talking to people, building a relationship. And oftentimes what happens is that when incidents happen in the community, people that don't look like us come in the community and they handle us different because they're unfamiliar with us. I mean, there's a social, cultural disconnect in a sense. And it creates a problem because, you can look at me. I think I'm a nice guy, but some people might look at me and say, well, that guy looks pretty aggressive, especially when he becomes passionate about what he talks about.
Right.
Or maybe somebody that doesn't look like me and doesn't know that that's how I am, or many that look like me are, may think that that's a sign of aggression, you know? And I think oftentimes that's what disconnects the community from the police and causes many of these problems, because there's a cultural identity disconnect. And I remember a while back there was a movement to help law enforcement officers have a cultural connection to where they were working, whether it was through special training, whether it was through meetings, whether it was through psychology evaluation, whatever it was. It was an attempt to make sure that they understood the people that they were going to protect, the people that they were going to arrest, or the people they were going to have confrontations with.
Right.
And so, given everything that we've heard in the news about the police and the relationship and things that are happening, what can you do different, at least in your district, a drive towards in your district that's going to ensure that there is a good connection between law enforcement and the community?
And we have two districts here that, again, I've met with the captain there. I've met with the leadership in those districts, and they have committed themselves to making sure that there is a connection from the citizens to the police station and the officers that are on the ground, and from the officers to the community. My thing is, I've been a huge proponent of community policing. My grandfather, the late Dewey Russ, he is one of the champions of community policing. He led Bronzeville in the 60s, did a lot of work with Reverend Dr. King, and he took care of the community members that were there. And he came up in this community, went to school in Arkansas, came back, but here's the deal. Because he came up in the community, he already had a connection, he and his family, with the community. We're currently getting officers throughout the country and throughout the state of Wisconsin. And they come here just to police in an environment that we currently exist in. Some of them, I've talked to them, they've dreamed of being police officers. And when they see themselves being police officers, they see themselves policing in an urban community that's purely black, and they now, instead of them being part of a police force that's familiar with the area, they sometimes are scared, insecure people that just come into the environment after being trained to force and bully around folks that they don't know and understand. They don't understand us or our culture, our kids, what we eat, what we drink. And they just don't know, so they come here and they're kind of scared. Now, not all of these police officers are bad police officers, and not all actors on the police department are bad and racist and terrible. However, what I will do is I'll make sure that as we see officers that aren't getting it done, as we see officers that are taking that turn that's not a healthy turn, I'll make sure that I go back to the union and go back to the police chief and say, you have an officer here that could put the city of Milwaukee at risk. One of the things we jump over and don't see is all the many settlements, all the amount of court cases, all the amount of attorney's fees that we pay out through our tax dollars to actually support, defend, and make sure we correct eventually someone that doesn't get charged, doesn't go to jail, and they're just a bad, terrible actor on our police department. So we need to identify those folks early. I will make sure that I continue to push for community policing, because when people in the community neighborhoods, from the alley to the sidewalk, when they're familiar with the face that they can commonly see, it makes the neighborhood safe, because they feel like, hey, Officer Smith, I can call him down at the office and I can call on him. And I'll continue to press these districts to make sure that you're not sending 5, 6, 15 different officers in the same area when Big Mama needs to see the same guy. The same guy she can call, the same guy that used to hand out the postcards, the same person that she can count on. I think as we go and work from neighbor to neighbor, these are the type of things that we can bring back. And with your support and your help, I can bring back to assure that community policing is now at the forefront. And again, I can't get in the police chief's business and change all this stuff day one. However, if you and I and a group of neighbors go downtown and say we demand to see consistent policing, folks on bikes, folks walking, folks that are here to protect and serve us, if we demand the same folks in our neighborhood, in our block, in our community, we'll work with you. Not somebody that's from way up north somewhere in Michigan that's scared out of his mind And he comes to our house and shakes us up as if we're the victim after we reported something. But we need to see consistent people that are working with block clubs, with neighborhoods, and with our community. I think that's what breeds a healthy neighborhood. And with your help, I promise you, that's what I'll do to make sure that our neighborhoods stay safe with and by the police. The police that we have currently, they're all we got. But eliminating bad actors, enforcing a community policing initiative, I think that's gonna help our city to at least feel safe.
Okay, well, I appreciate